Hello and welcome back to the Soft Edges podcast. I am your host, Lucie, and here with me today, and as per usual, is my juicy, wonderful, and smart co-host, Mayis Raquel. And wait, it is our 10th episode. Holy shit! I cannot believe we've already released 10 episodes, and I cannot believe there are only 2 left for season 1.
What? Whoa.
Yeah.
Feels like it was just yesterday.
I know. Wow.
Oh
So
my God.
weird. Anyways, how are you feeling today, you beautiful human?
Oh, I'm good. Quite good. Thank you. Generally fine, but I must say I'm still doing too much. Nothing changed on that front. And the scary thing is that I still have a hard time noticing when I'm doing too much. Because recently I was talking to someone and I told them about what I've been up to lately. And at the end I was like, yeah, so just that, not much, you know. And then they were like, what? Excuse me, this sounds a lot, actually. It just confronted me again with the fact that I'm really not giving myself enough rest, both physically but also a good headspace to process and to recover and such. But the thing is, noticing that doesn't help. Changing it is really not easy. It really isn't.
No, it's not. It's really not. You're always doing the most.
I know. I mean, it obviously requires something that I'm at the moment incapable of giving myself, apparently. I don't know what it is, but there is a huge contradiction between how I deeply aspire to treat myself and the way that I actually do, which is something that I really need to work on and change. I'm getting tired.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're always
Yes.
doing so much, but at least as long as you're enjoying yourself, I think it's nice, but it's definitely super important for you to find a balance and actually reserve some time for you to rest, to chill, and to recover from whatever effort you've been putting into your life.
So true. Yeah, the plus side is I do enjoy most of the things that I'm doing, except for having to talk to you for this podcast.
Oh yeah, I
Just
cannot
kidding.
imagine the misery you have to go through every week.
Just kidding. Love ya.
Love ya, Tao. Oh my God, I can't. Anyway, swiftly moving on from this wonderful compliment.
Lovely.
In today's episode, we are continuing our wonderful journey through the incredible book Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good by the ever wonderful and iconic Adrienne Maree Brown. We are going to cover the chapters between the pages 345 and 381, so if you have a copy of this magnificent book, feel free to grab it, and if not, just sit back and enjoy the ride.
Yes.
So without further ado, shall we?
Yes, let's dive right in.
Wonderful. So the first chapter we are going to talk about is titled Fly as Hell, a conversation with Sonya Renee Taylor. And in this chapter, Adrienne Maree Brown introduces us to Sonya Renee Taylor, a performance poet, activist, transformational leader, and founder of The Body is Not an Apology movement, which is described as, quote, "We believe that discrimination, social inequality, and injustice are manifestations of our inability to make peace with the body, our own and others. Through information, dissemination, personal and social transformation projects, and community building, The Body is Not an Apology fosters global, radical, unapologetic self-love, which translates to radical human love and action in service toward a more just, equitable, and compassionate world." End quote.
Beautiful.
If that's not a fucking amazing description, I don't know what is.
Nothing else.
Yes. And so Sonya, the founder of this movement, is a language lover, and her love for words and language is what actually led her to create this movement, The Body is Not an Apology. This sentence actually came to her during a heart-to-heart conversation that she was having with a friend, and it immediately hit her. It suddenly, quote, kept illuminating all the ways I was not in alignment with what I was speaking. So I was compelled to get in alignment. I had to figure out what had me still operating like an apology when I was saying otherwise. End quote. So what started as a friendly advice turned into a hashtag, which then turned into a movement, which today reaches 250,000 persons weekly. Wow. Fucking yes. Yeah. And with this movement, Sonya created a community based on radical vulnerability, radical honesty, radical empathy, and radical self love. I am so happy, to say the least, that Sonya Renee Taylor exists.
Oh
And I
yeah,
feel like we need more people like her who are doing positive work and change in the world to be given a larger platform and more light, more attention, you know?
100%. I think Sonya
Yeah.
Renee Taylor is a legend. I got to know her. I got to know of her, not her. I wish during the latest Black Lives Matter uprising, and yeah, with the incredible videos that she shared during that time,
Mm-hmm.
especially
Mm-hmm.
analyzing what was happening and offering new perspectives and directions for change and action. She was amazing, amazing. Each new video she shared was just mind blowing. And interesting that you mentioned that she's a language lover and lover of words and such, because I remember one video of hers. She wanted to talk about nihilism, and she was like, nihilism or nihilism? Nihilism or nihilism? How to pronounce that? And then she said, whatever, I will go with nihilism because it's like annihilation. What these people are doing. It's like self annihilation. And
Yeah.
yeah, it just reminded me of that. Yeah.
It's so nice.
Yeah, love her. And I loved reading about her work within the frame of the body is not an apology and how shame
Mm-hmm.
relates to body. It's just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what were your thoughts on Sonia's interview and what did you take from it?
I loved that because actually I was also reading another book this week while we were also working on this episode. I was reading Alok Vaid-Menon's book Beyond the Gender Binary. And
Ooh.
there they said something related to this, and I have it here actually. Quote, the thing about shame is that it eats you until it fully consumes you. Then you cannot tell the difference between their shame and your own, between a body and an apology. End quote. So I was
Ooh.
suddenly like, wow, these two texts that I'm engaging with today hit somewhere so parallel, or actually literally the same spot. It's just, yeah, brilliant. It's a very important take, I think, on the
Yeah,
way we
absolutely.
approach body and embodiment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved it.
Had you ever thought of it this way?
Not really that much. I mean, it's clear to me already that the ways in which so many of forms of oppression shape our body through shaming, fear, and control, making it a commodity rather than this divine embodiment we are as humans.
Mm-hmm.
And how body becomes a currency and such. Um, so yeah, these were the thoughts that I had after reading the essay, and it kind of grounded these ideas that I had floating around in her own
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
framework.
I see. Yeah.
How was it for you?
Yeah, I really loved this interview as well. I think it's very rich in valuable information and insight for sure. And something that caught my attention is Sonia's answer to Brown's question, what have you learned about your body in that journey? And to that, Sonia answered, quote, I learned the way I was bartering myself. I saw my body as both shame and currency. How can I get what I want from you using this? At the same time, deeply not believing that this was enough. Like, let me sell you something I don't want. This work has given me the chance to dig into that. Why do you want to give yourself away, Sonia? End quote. And it kind of relates. It actually relates to what you were just saying just now. A body as shame and currency simultaneously. To me, it was kind of like, wow, this is something I can personally relate to from a different perspective, in a way that I definitely used to consider my own body in such a way
Mm-hmm.
as a currency, especially in my teen years. And so I asked myself the same question that Sonia asked herself, which was, why do you want to give yourself away? I asked this question to my younger self, my between 13 and 18-year-old self, I would say. And the answer that I got super spontaneously was because I do not dare to define my worth, so I let others do it for me.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's like the super spontaneous answer that I got to this question in the moment. I'm sure there are so many layers to unpeel within this one sentence, but it felt true. It felt like I was truly talking to my younger self, and that's what she had to say to me. And at that time, indeed, I don't think I was even aware of the possibility to define my own self worth on something else than my body. Wonder why? This is the kind of effects that oppression has on
Oh
you,
yeah.
apparently.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, this is what came up to me while reflecting on this particular section of the interview.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's incredible. I love that, Lucy. Wow. It speaks to me as well, I must say. Really. And actually,
Yeah.
this realization is something that I have received or understood not that long ago. Quite recently,
Mm-hmm.
actually. Quite recently, I really decided to define my own value or my body's value for myself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when I
Mm-hmm.
want to consider my body and consider its shape or what I want to do with it, very recently I'm like, yeah, and that is for me, for myself, not for
Yeah.
any kind of external validation or anyone else, for anyone else to judge the value of it or define the value of it.
That's so fucking cool.
Absolutely. I think Sonia's Body is Not an Apology really highlights one of these core problems these systems and politics create around bodies, because they expect us to be apologetic about our bodies for so
Mm-hmm.
many
Mm-hmm.
reasons, for our abilities or disabilities, for the amount of space we take or the lack thereof also.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
literally almost any shape of bodies are shamed. Literally
Uh-huh.
almost any shape are shamed, and the ones that aren't are at the other side of this toxic situation where their bodies are currency, like the Instagram
Exactly.
perfect bodies, for example. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
in my discover section, because the algorithm knows I'm gay as fuck, so it only shows me these Instagram perfect bodies, these dudes constantly working out, how these shirtless selfies with their yeah, incredibly
Yeah.
perfect bodies. And then that's the other side of it. Okay. And even then, people probably find many ways to shame them too.
Oh, for sure. I've seen that a lot on social media. There is this actor who I absolutely love, who he's a comedian, actually, an American comedian, Kumail Nanjiani, and he recently went through this body transformation for a specific role. I think he was training a lot for a Marvel film,
Mm-hmm.
and so he went from having a quote unquote normal body to being quite ripped, and he got so much backlash from social media, people on the internet, for being buff, basically. And it was so weird to see. Like, people are just not happy no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they're always going to
Absolutely.
find something to say about your body.
That's so
And it was so
problematic.
sad. Yeah. Because, yeah, you can't do anything right, apparently.
I
And this
know.
guy was just training for a film, and he wasn't even posting shirtless pictures or anything, but it was a picture of him in his shirt and in his kitchen, and you could see the muscles, obviously. But suddenly he got backlash for that. Like, who
Wow.
cares?
Why can't we
So
just shut
yeah,
the fuck up about other people's bodies? Why can't we just do that? That's so twisted. That's so
yeah.
strange.
It's time we move on from shaming everybody else's
Mm-hmm.
bodies. Like, it's fine. Everybody has a body. Everybody should be able to do whatever the fuck they
Oh,
want with their
yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And present it however they want, by the way. It
Yes.
doesn't
Yes,
matter whether
please.
you put clothes on or you undress yourself. Both
Absolutely.
are fine. Both are empowering. Both are completely okay to do.
Yeah, but also body is not a toxic apology. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Toxic apology in the sense that like you don't even know what you are required to apologize for, but you are required to apologize. You know,
Yeah.
it's that kind of a system. You don't even know how you're supposed to not be shamed. And then the
Mm-hmm.
system still says like, yeah, but you have to apologize for looking like this, for being like this.
Yeah.
It's a fucking toxic apology that it requires from us.
Ugh.
So
Ugh.
manipulative. Yeah.
Yeah, very manipulative. Ew,
You.
ew. The disgust.
The disgust. Where's my vomit bucket?
But going back to the chapter and this wonderful interview, towards the end of their conversation, Adrienne Marie Brown asks Sonya two very interesting questions, which I would actually like to ask you, Mayis, if you're comfortable answering them, of course. You can totally skip. Do you remember when you were taught that the body was supposed to be an apology, and how did you learn that it was not indeed an apology?
Interesting. When did I learn this? God, when I look back on it, I mean, I guess around the age 10, I was already aware of bodies and problems around them as well. I think at the age of 12, I remember once a girl just out of the blue told me that she wished that my cousin had my personality or that I had his looks. And I was like,
Excuse her?
so then she demanded that apology from me for not switching bodies with my cousin.
Oh, well, okay. That's totally normal. All right.
I know, yeah. And
Jeez.
yeah, I guess that's an incident that I clearly remember where my body was supposed to be an apology.
Yeah.
And when I learned that it isn't or it's not supposed to be, probably wasn't really a revelation, but a gradual result of a process of healing and feeling more comfortable in my body and such. Thanks to people like Sonya, thanks to great friends, thanks to therapy, I don't know, whatever, thanks to pain that I went through. Yeah, thanks to pain
growth,
and thinking
basically.
that, absolutely, thinking that I'm not supposed to suffer, at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you. What about you? I'm curious for both of these.
Yeah, those are interesting questions. I was super curious to hear your answer, and then I thought about what it would be for me. And before I dive in, I'll issue a super gentle trigger warning because I'm going to talk about body issues. So for me, I believe that I learned that my body was supposed to be an apology through the body image struggles I witnessed very closely to me. Two very important women in my life who are both very strong and creative, always talked negatively about their bodies around me, around everybody else, because they sometimes gained weight and had some belly fat or thicker thighs. And as a young and easily influenced mind, I took their behaviors in and registered those behaviors as blaming your body, degrading your body was the norm, basically. And I would say that maybe later in life, as a young girl of color who lacked self-confidence and so badly wanted to fit in with the cool crowd, I learned that my body was only meant for me to be accepted, validated, a currency again, as we mentioned before. All the while I was overacting constantly, seeking attention and pretending that I was fine with how everybody, including me, treated or used my body, when the reality was that I hated it more and more after every use, let's say.
Yeah.
But the way I learned that it was not an apology was through self-exploration and self-care in my early 20s, I would say. The more I kept my body to myself, for myself, consciously, mindfully, the more I took care of it, looked at it, learned to love it, the less it became an apology and the more comfortable I became with sharing it consensually, whether quote-unquote simply visually, like on the beach or in front of friends or on photo shoots, or sensually as well. So, yeah, I think that's my answer.
Yeah, beautiful. And it must have been really difficult to dismantle that early conditioning you received from people you took as early role models, right?
Definitely.
Really good point in the sense that as children, we also really look up to the adults around us, the caretakers, and how they consider certain things, their values on certain things, or their ideas, their thoughts on certain things. And we really internalize that. I had that too, honestly, in my family too. Like there was huge fat phobia and people mostly directed it to themselves. When they looked totally fine to me, for example, they would say they hated their bodies and
exactly.
such. Ah, I wish we weren't kicked out of Garden of Eden like that. I wish we were still there thinking that everyone looks fine. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. The messages we could have not registered in our minds and bodies.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If there's a new therapy technique that allows that, I'm there.
Oh, I would pay for it for sure.
Yeah, I'm there.
I would invest in it.
The eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Erase it. Erase it all.
Please, please.
Delete permanently.
Move to trash. So I think we can move on to the next chapter on our list, which is titled On the Pleasures of Wardrobe, a conversation with Maori Holmes. And this chapter is a very lovely conversation, again, centered around the love and pleasure of fashion between Adrienne Marie Brown and Maori Holmes, who Brown introduces as, quote, a curator, filmmaker, designer, and cultural worker. She is the founder and artistic director of Black Star Film Festival and currently serves as executive director of Array Alliance. In addition to Black Star, her curatorial projects include Flaherty NYC in 2017, Kino Wat, Black Lily Film and Music Festival, among others. As a filmmaker, her work has screened internationally and been broadcast throughout the United States. As a designer, she has collaborated with film and theater directors including James Avery and Carol Mitchell-Leon. Her previous professional positions include the Institute of Contemporary Art in Philadelphia, Leeway Foundation, and Washington City Paper. Maori studied costume design at the graduate level at California Institute of the Arts and earned an MFA in film from Temple University.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout this conversation, Maori tells us about the history of her own love and passion for dressing the body, her own and others, as well as the immense pleasure that fashion, clothing brings into her life. At 5 years old, she was already, quote unquote, firing her own mother from picking her outfits. Which
Yes.
made me giggle because that little anecdote, I just love the nerve, the audacity, the sass that Maori
Of
already displayed
course.
at such a young age.
Yes.
Yes, bitch.
Yes.
I feel like this is the kind of thing you would do too.
Oh, I probably fired my parents on numerous occasions.
And Maori also shares the intention and energy she puts into helping friends shop and dressing them, saying, quote, I'm trying to help them uncover who they truly are deep down and find it in their attire, end quote. So her body dressing practice is just full of love and care, as it always should be, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
And eventually, Maori shares with us the guidelines she usually follows for, quote, constructing a wardrobe that thrills and delights the wearer and the world, end quote. She presented those guidelines in the form of questions, the first one being, do you love this? Meaning, is this a love at first sight, electric kind of love? Do you need this?
Mm-hmm.
Do you already own a similar item? Or is it a unique piece, a piece that you've been looking for, longing for? And what is it that catches your attention? How does it fit? Making peace with the fact that certain pieces of clothing might not fit you the way it used to anymore and letting go of them. There's always more beautiful and fitting things for you to find. And the fourth question, guideline, how does it feel? Is the energy of the clothes speaking to you, calling out to you? I just loved those guidelines. I don't know about you, but
Same.
I thought they were incredibly well thought out, incredibly caring, and heartwarming in a lot of ways. But before we dive deeper into those guidelines, I would love to know what you thought of this conversation, because I know that you love clothes and you love fashion.
Yes, I really enjoyed this conversation so much. I loved it. I really loved it. And I actually really took a couple of things with me, and I believe it will be transformative for me, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think that these guidelines, those questions are brilliant. I really want to keep them in mind, like structurally keep them in mind when I'm shopping for new clothes
Oh, yeah.
and such, or approaching my wardrobe and
Mm-hmm.
such. And I really couldn't agree more when she said I think our wardrobes should consist of things that we absolutely love, that makes us feel good and brings us joy, end quote. And over many years, honestly, that's how my wardrobe evolved, by the
Yeah.
way. Now the main space is only for stuff that truly give me joy, that I truly love, and it has to be that way even for my loungewear. I have to love it. It can't just be an old t-shirt that I will chill in at home. I
Oh,
just want to
hells
love
no.
it. Yes. And even if no one will see it, even if no one will ever see it, I need to wear things that make me happy with the kind of texture that I
Oh,
want,
fuck
with the
yeah.
kind of shape, kind of feel that I want, with beautiful colors and has to be clean and smells good and all of this. I love
Sounds
it.
delicious.
Hmm. How did you engage with it initially?
Yeah, I loved it as well. And I love those guidelines that she shared with us, of course. I feel like fashion is such an important part of my life. I've always loved clothes as well, and I've always loved not only clothes that I wear, but also looking at people and how they dress. It just brings me joy when I see two really weird combinations of pieces of clothing, for example. It just catches my eye, and I'm like,
Hmm.
wow, that's so fucking cool. Or if loungewear, for example, looks super comfy, it also brings me joy, and I feel like, wow, I should get it myself too. So yeah,
Exactly.
and I also really liked in the "Do you need this?" guideline how Maori pointed out that one of her friends started actually getting rid of one piece of clothing every time she got a new one. And I like that as well because it allows you to renew constantly your wardrobe without getting too cluttered in it and getting lost in it and letting some pieces of clothing aside and never wearing them too. It's always great, I think, to make space for a new style. That's kind of what I'm trying to do right now because I feel like my clothes have been colorless, let's say, and I'm missing some color in my life, and I really want to get rid of all of the stuff that I haven't been wearing, just donate them, sell them on Vinted or whatever, and use that new space in my closet to bring in new clothes that are colorful and vibrant and just make me happy.
Absolutely. I love that too. Yeah, I'm having an easier time getting rid of clothes, easier and easier as the years pass. But I also sometimes am attached to certain pieces of clothing because of the time that I was wearing them in, or it reminds me of a relationship or a friendship or a
Oh, of
city
course.
or something. So it carries a certain aura that I don't want to get rid of, but then it gets too cluttered. And I had a lot of these kind of outfits that I just couldn't get rid of, but also didn't want to lose the memory aspect of
Yeah.
them, the emotional attachment to them. So maybe you would remember on my third year, during our third year in art school in Amsterdam, I made this project that I cut the fabrics of my old clothing
Yes.
that I loved in A4 size, and I made a book out of them so that
It
I
was
could
so
just,
nice.
yeah, it was just much more compact. It didn't have to take all that space in a fucking luggage or in a wardrobe, but it became a book with its aspects, which is its texture, its fabric, and its colors and shapes that carry the spirit of that time for me. So I could preserve that. It was a method of archiving for me. And then I
Hmm.
just got rid of the rest of that fabric. So it was just perfect. That's what I will keep doing
Yeah.
actually.
And that is so you because you love archiving.
I do.
And the fact that you
Totally.
archived, quite literally archived, your clothes is
Oh
just
yeah.
so nice. It's so lovely. I love it.
Yes, yes. I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah. But have you ever felt this pure delight, this scream worthy love at first sight towards a piece of clothing?
Yes, many times.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I always get them.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, honestly, I really don't. Yeah, I really don't hold back when I have such a great connection with a piece of clothing,
Oh,
and then I just
amazing.
can't wear to wear can't wait to wear it, so I can just wear it to Albert Heijn or I don't know. I will just wear it going to the supermarket. Doesn't matter. I will just wear it to the fucking flower. The I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but I will just wear it anywhere.
Oh, yeah. Any occasion can be a special occasion,
Yes,
honestly. It's what
exactly.
you
I'm not
make
gonna
of
wait
it.
around for a party.
Oh, hell no. Especially
No.
since parties are off the table at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I've been just dressing up for nothing, but that's many people are doing it right now,
Yeah,
actually.
I did that actually. I went to work last week in a sparkly little black dress
Mm-hmm.
and with my thigh-high boots. And because I was
Ooh.
so tired of just not dressing up anymore, and I just thought I was longing for a party, but I just couldn't party. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna dress for work as if I was going to a party.
I love that. I
And that's what
love
I
that.
did. And it felt great, and I get a lot of compliments. So
Of
there.
course you did. You know, I also sometimes just dress up for nothing and then I feel myself. I'm like, wow, I look so good.
Oh,
I
yeah.
look so sexy right now.
Oh,
I wish
hell
I
yeah.
could fuck me.
Uh
But
huh.
then, there's a point that goes like you look at yourself in the mirror, you pose, and you just sit down and you look at yourself.
Hmm.
But then there's a point that's like, okay. Nah. You know? You still want to share it with someone. You still want to be seen by
Of
so I mean I
course.
do at the end of the day.
I do
So
too.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tricky those days to get that satisfaction of just coming and entering a room and just all
Yeah,
eyes on
right?
you.
I
Everybody's like, oh
know.
my God, I love your outfit. And you're like, I know.
Yes. I'm like, look
You
at
look
me. Keep looking at
hot.
me.
I miss
You're
that.
looking at the right direction. This is the right
Mm-hmm.
direction.
It's the only direction.
It's the only direction. North, south, east, west. It's the right direction. It's me. Check your compass. All right. I'm sorry. I'm just so in a different kind of mindset today.
I can tell. I love it. I could let you go on this monologue.
Yeah. No, you have to stop me at one point.
Shut up. On that note, would you like to say anything else about Maori's
Yes.
conversation?
Oh, yes, because I really agree with Maori about how our clothing matters in also the sense that how people respond to visual cues. And for the ones who can't see the quality, the texture, the fit, the mood, the confidence, that all these matter, and how we look really impacts how others respond to us. And sometimes this is unfair, sometimes this sucks. But I think most of us might have experienced that or observed how sometimes the way people react to us changes depending on how we look.
Oh,
Maori
yeah.
calls it a social chemistry. It even impacts how much attention we are able to command. The way people engage with us changes according to how we look tremendously. Really, people really do that. Like, if you look more attractive to them, they will pay you more attention. They will want to
Mm-hmm.
be more helpful with you. I experience that a lot. Sometimes when I just go outside, um, when I just didn't feel like it and I look disheveled and exhausted and terrible, and then when I'm a bit more careful about how I look, I can really sense the difference in the way people treat me sometimes. Of course,
Yeah.
some of it might be the projections of my confidence or insecurity in that look,
Mm-hmm.
but I must say, yeah, I really do think that this changes.
It does. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I would say because why should the way you look or the way you dress or the way you present yourself necessarily change the way that you're treated? I don't really see a logic there, but it definitely has some influence.
Ideally, I also definitely think so. I think we should all deserve respect and sympathy and care in
Mm-hmm.
our communications. I guess it's the enthusiasm factor, maybe, because I also get really enthusiastic when I'm face to face with someone who just was super interesting with their outfit, very expressive, or just fits them really good. I also
Yeah.
get enthusiastic. I also feel like, oh, I want to engage with you a bit more.
Yeah, it is
Hmm.
definitely an intriguing factor when you have a specific outfit on, or even just your aura, the way that you hold yourself and stand in the room and behave and talk to
Yeah,
people. That's also a huge factor, I feel.
absolutely. And I'm actually really curious. I have a question for you. What would you say the main important element is for you regarding your choice of clothing? So what do you mostly care for when you're picking one?
Hmm. So these days, for example, I'm really looking for color, bright colors. I love
Hmm.
colorful patterns. I love really bright colors, and of course, comfort. So I would say those are the two main criterias I look for in a piece of clothing. I've been browsing Instagram for wonderful smaller brands that make the coolest clothes, in my opinion. But of course, they're a little bit out of my price range. I
Hmm.
have,
Hmm.
let's just say, I have taste for the luxury.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm. You deserve it.
What about
Yeah.
you?
For me, it's the story, I think. The kind of story I'm telling with it,
Mm-hmm.
the kind of person that I want to perform with it, or yeah, that day, that specific day, or if I have an occasion in my head, and an idea about what I want to perform in that occasion as well. Like today I feel extra slutty, or I want to look comfy and cozy,
Mm-hmm.
or I want to
Mm-hmm.
look more formal and a bit more serious or mysterious, or something between
Ooh.
all of that, or a mix. I think I pick clothing based on the mood a lot, the mood that I can express with them.
Yeah.
And then comes the color and design, and then the quality of the fabric too, I think.
Wow,
So
but
it's
that's
something
really
like that.
interesting. I love that you dress depending on your mood.
Oh yeah, it's all about the mood and the story for me, really.
Yeah. I also tend to do that but in a different way. Like if I feel really down on myself, I'm going to force myself to wear an outfit that I would wear on a day where I feel super joyful, something that would create joy in me even if I'm not feeling it.
Yes, exactly. You can
Yeah.
literally put it on as a mood costume and then just embody
Exactly.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, a mood enhancer.
Oh yes, yes, perfect.
So it's time to move on to the next chapter of this book titled Adornment and Burlesque, a
Yeah.
conversation with Taja Lindley. Mm-hmm. And in this chapter, Adrienne Murray Brown talks to Taja Lindley, who I would like to introduce by reading an excerpt from her biography, which is available on her website, tajalindley.com. Quote, Lindley is a memory worker, healer, and an activist. Through iterative and interdisciplinary practices, she creates socially engaged artwork that reflects and transforms audiences, shifts culture, and moves people to action. She uses movement, text, installation, ritual, burlesque, and multimedia to create immersive works that are concerned with freedom, healing, and pleasure. Since 2014, she has developed a body of work recycling and repurposing discarded materials. End quote.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful conversation that Adrienne Murray Brown has with Taja, in which Taja tells us all about how she cultivates pleasure in her life from prioritizing her creative practice, the joy of getting ready, creating handmade adornment with intention, all the way to listening to her deeper needs and aligning with what makes her feel good and letting go of what makes her unhappy, which, for example, translated into quitting jobs that created security through biweekly paychecks and health insurance, but also created unhappiness. As Taja says herself, quote, I organize my life around pleasure, so it's hard for me to stay in a space, an organization, a job if it doesn't feel good. And I think that may sound flighty. Adrienne Murray Brown answers, to me, it sounds like intelligence, but go on, end quote.
I love that. I love that moment.
Yes, I loved it too. And the conversation then leads to the topic of burlesque, with Taja uses in her performance practice. I would actually highly recommend watching her performance titled This Ain't a Eulogy, a ritual for remembering, which Taja mentions during this conversation, actually. It's available to watch on her website, and it's very moving and very beautiful.
I'm really curious.
Yeah, you should really watch it. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Taja uses and practices burlesque with a lot of intention and transforms it into a political tool, even in her performances, including her very first burlesque performance titled Miss Black America, in which she, quote, collaged like 30 songs together in different ways to go on this journey from the Council of Respectability condemning me to me finding my pleasure in my body to owning my crown and sexuality, end quote. wow, first of all.
Yes, yes, Taja, yes.
Yes, I sadly could not find this specific performance on the internet. I would
Mm-hmm.
love to see it. Did you find it perchance?
No. Mm-mm.
No, me neither, but maybe it wasn't recorded. However, if someone knows where we can watch it legally, please let us know because I'm super
Mm-hmm.
curious.
Yeah.
Um, and after this brief introduction, I would love to know what were your thoughts on this conversation. How did you engage with Taja?
I absolutely loved that Taja decided to make joy her compass and allowed it to literally direct her where she should go.
Mm-hmm.
And that she decided not to settle down for mediocre experiences like a stupid job or a space that doesn't feel good or
Mm-mm.
something that just can't be sustainable in her life. And yeah, I think that was really brilliant, and I especially enjoyed the part where she was telling us the story of how her mother and her sisters would get ready to go out to the club.
Yeah.
That was so
Yes.
much fun, and how they were
Yes.
playing music and asking each other for clothing advice, complimenting each other. This whole sisterhood ritual that she mentions there. And my sister and I have it very similar as well. That's how we get ready to go out at night together too. We
I can
compliment
so
each
picture you
other.
too. I
We
can
help each
so
other
picture you too.
decide, what we should wear that night, and we just dance to the music and getting us in the mood and such. Just sharing that overall
Ooh.
excitement. And I missed that so fucking much.
I can
So when I was
imagine.
reading that, I was like, I miss this. I miss this so much.
Nostalgia. Oh my God.
Yes, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Oh, but I would have loved to witness you two getting ready together because it sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, it is. But I also loved always getting ready to parties with you, by the way. Back in your
Yes.
place in Amsterdam, how we would just put on makeup together and just compliment each other in the in
Oh,
the sluttiest ways, and
yes.
yeah.
And matching accidentally.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
It was
already twerking on the
amazing.
bike on our way to club.
Yes. That was New Year's of last year, like
Mm-hmm.
2019 into 2020. We did not know what was
Oh,
arriving towards us.
so good
But
that
it
that
was
we
so
were
much fun.
totally wasted and just we went all the way. It was
Oh, it
as
was
if
the
we
most
knew it was
fun.
our last party.
Exactly. And it was so nice to just get ready with you at my place and just like check our outfits in the mirror, put makeup on and all. It was
Oh
wonderful.
yeah, absolutely. Spending God knows how many hours in Alice's jacuzzi, just being totally.
Rise and shine.
Oh my God.
That's an inside joke. Nobody's gonna get it, but whatever.
I know. Well, at one point we will have to share those videos.
On our Patreon.
Yes, absolutely. We should make an OnlyFans like that for that kind of video.
Oh my god, yes.
I was literally giving myself to Alice's house, so.
Yes. Oh my god, this is one of my favorite videos in the whole fucking world. I swear. Oh my god.
Okay, going back to the text, I really appreciated Taja's tip for the performance artist because she says, quote, I really have to unblock myself and become a channel and the medium for what needs to move through me so that I can deliver the ritual of performance. End quote. And I feel like this is a very valuable tip, something I definitely will keep in mind the next time I will perform anything. To really unblock myself and like to get over myself. It's not about me. It's becoming that channel of that performance, becoming the medium
That's very
for
true.
whatever needs to move through. I think it's such a good tip that can even help with stage fright, because if you can remind yourself that it's not about you, you're there to perform this as a vessel. It might even
Yeah.
help the stage fright because then you're not attached to the fragility of your ego or your persona or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but you're just there for that performance. I just really found it valuable. Also, her experience of interesting physical breakthrough as a solo performance artist was very interesting to me as well. The trauma from childhood abuses and more that she mentions, and how
Mm-hmm.
she relates that to the body memory and finding healing in performance. That was
Yeah.
also beautiful. And I think some friends of mine who also tried to work on projects related to performance art as well express a couple of times that they were having similar breakthroughs as well, similar liberations through that practice too. Yeah, but also Brown asks her, "What's one thing that you think every human needs to feel?" And Taja responds, "Self-actualized." And Lucy, I wonder if you feel self-actualized, or are you close to it? Where do you see yourself in relation to being totally self-actualized?
I think I'm close to it, honestly. I think I can almost touch it
I
in
love
a
it.
way.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. It feels really good. Yeah.
How do you feel that you're getting close to it?
I'm not sure if I can really describe it. It's more of an energy, I would say, of a sensation, and really feeling more and more like I'm actually embodying exactly who who I've been wanting to embody this whole time. You know what I mean? That I'm
Mm.
actually letting my true self shine through more and more.
So the energy gates have opened. You don't
Yeah,
contain them
exactly.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a
I
very good
love that.
analogy. Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yes. What about
Yeah.
you?
Well, hmm. I do feel self-actualizing. I
Mhm.
feel in the process of it as well, definitely moving towards it. And even though I'm not sure if I will ever feel there, but I still change a lot, and I feel like I'm getting closer to it, like you as well.
Yeah.
As a teenager, I could really see my growth from a year before. I don't know if you can relate to that, but as a
Oh, for sure.
teenager, I was like, oh my God, last year I thought of this situation like that, or I had very different ideas or different reactions to certain things. And even though over many years this growth became less drastic and dramatic, it also became more mindful. Now I'm
Mhm.
able to trace my growth in a different light, more mindfully in my self actualization.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it
Yeah, but
feels
that's also
good.
nice, right?
Totally. Feels amazing.
Yes. Congratulations, you've made it. You're halfway through this episode. Let's take a short musical breather and we'll be right back with you. All right, wonderful. Let's move on to the next chapter on our list today, which is titled Burlesque and Liberation, which
Mm-hmm.
is a conversation between the two sisters, Michi Osato and Una Osato. And in this chapter, we witness yet another really powerful and beautiful conversation. I mean, I think
Yes.
it's no surprise there.
One of my
And
favorites as well.
yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
same.
Mm-hmm.
And to introduce these lovely ladies, I would like to read the wonderful introduction written by Adrienne Marie Brown, as I found it full of life and amazing information. Quote, Michi Ilona Osato and Una Aya Osato are sisters, performers, writers, and educators who use burlesque to explore their identities as queer femmes of color. They are co-founders with Dawn Crandall, aka Miss Aurora Boobs Realis, of Brass Burlesque, Brown Radical Ass Burlesque, a multidisciplinary performance troupe based in New York City. Brass uses their unique Brass uses their unique perspectives as femmes of color as a lens to the myriad issues they are faced within society. Through celebrations of their politicized bodies, they are making politics sexy and empowering audiences to value their own stories and use their creativity toward collective action. End quote. That's a pretty great introduction, if you ask me. And I would like to point out that Una's stage name is Exotic Other.
Mm-hmm.
Exotic spelled EXHOTIC Other. That's pretty nice, I think.
It's brilliant.
I think it's fucking brilliant, honestly. I
Yeah.
wish I could have come up with that name.
Mm-hmm.
And her sister Michi's stage name is Sister Selva. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Yes. Mm.
I would actually highly recommend watching interviews of Michi and Una. You can find some on YouTube and Vimeo. I will add a few links in the description for you all to watch because they're so fucking cool and sweet and full of such a vibrant energy, honestly. It brought me a lot of joy to watch them and to listen to them. During their conversation, the two sisters talk at length about the intention and impact of their burlesque art on them, but also on others. To the question, why do they do burlesque / how is it liberatory, part of Una's answer says, quote, burlesque gives us space to feel all emotions and to recharge together in our bodies together, not just online, but viscerally together. It's about finding freedom on stage in my own body while others watch and experience, end quote. And a little bit later, she actually adds, quote, we want nothing of the audience but to witness and hope / know that their own freedom is wrapped in ours, and the freer we each are, the more present and fully embodied we are to work for our collective liberation, toppling down borders, prisons, and all other systems that cause violence and keep our people from being free, all while we take off our clothes, showing some titties, ass, and armpit hair, end quote.
That's such a great relationship between a performer and an audience, right?
Yes, I think so too. I love that it's not just about the audience watching them and them performing for the audience as a spectacle, but truly a connection, a deeper relationship in which the performer and the audience free each other, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
I found that
literally
really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Have you ever had such an experience, actually, being either a performer or part of the audience?
I think certain theater plays that I've seen, when they made me cry with a certain catharsis, definitely, yeah, I did feel liberated, moved, brought to wonderful places by these performers. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
really
that.
wonderful. I think it's nice to notice that when you can. And I hope everybody gets to experience that one day.
Have you?
Yeah, I think so too. Actually, when I was little, my aunt used to take me to a lot of different shows, like ballet, dance, or theater plays, and all of those different wonderful, creative, artistic performances. And I remember that I was so extremely passionate about them that I would slowly get up from my seat to get kind of almost closer to the stage, and I was mesmerized, and I just felt called by this wonderful stage and this wonderful body movement and such. And yeah, it made me feel freer because it was a moment of escape from the daily life and maybe the worries and the pressure, the oppression, which I was not aware of at the time. It was like this little bubble of joy and focus, yeah, indestructible focus, or almost, and I loved that.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
I love to picture cute little Lucy getting so moved by what she's watching,
Yes.
feeling liberated without knowing that she is.
Yeah, looking back, I truly feel like that's what I was feeling at the time.
That's so beautiful.
But going back to the chapter, later on, Una's sister, Michi, still in relation to this question, in a way, she adds, quote, in thinking about burlesque as a liberation practice, I've also been thinking about that just because you are taking your clothes off doesn't mean liberation is a given. I feel like what makes it a liberatory practice is a lot in the intention we bring to it, end quote. And I also found this really interesting as a point, that taking your clothes off doesn't necessarily mean that you are being liberated, that you're experiencing it in a way, that it's not necessarily a given, as she says herself. I found it really interesting.
Totally agree, yeah, definitely.
And how did you feel about this conversation, Mayis? What did you take from it, and did it make you feel like learning more about burlesque or maybe even practicing it yourself one day?
All of it. All of it, seriously. There's also a really interesting point Michi made when she says to Una, quote, "You have mentioned that it's been a journey to pace yourself and not take your clothes off all at once. But I feel like you taking all of your clothes off at once is in some way being afraid of your own sexiness," end quote. And how Una responds to it saying, "Yeah, it's like, here, I'm aggressively showing my body before you can reject me. When I was younger and liked people who didn't like me back, I found that all the power I felt like I had was in being able to confront them, asking them directly, 'Do you like me?' They would be like, I don't even know you to know if I'm into you. So that wouldn't go very far," end quote. I really loved this point because my interpretation of it was, this part is that they're talking about growing into our own unique sexiness and not just imitating what we think should be sexy, just aggressively getting rid of our clothing like in some stupid Hollywood films, but learning to really embody that sexiness that belongs to us. Not an act, not an imitation of what we saw somewhere, but tapping into our own natural sexy flow. And Una
Yeah.
says, quote, "When you're like, damn, that person is sexy, I think it's because they've tapped into what sexy is for them and it continues to evolve and change," end quote. This was such a brilliant point to me. I loved it. And I wanted to ask you regarding this. Do you remember when you began to feel that you started to really tap into your own unique sexiness? And in what way did it emerge in your life?
That's a really interesting question. I think it's pretty recent, honestly. Must have been in the past, in the past 5 years, 4 years, and maybe even more recent than that. But how did it manifest? That's a good question. I think for me, it might be in the way that I carry myself. It's not really, or I don't want to say not caring anymore because I still care way too much, but but caring less about what people think of me and focusing more on what I want to feel for myself and what the effect that I want to have on the world, and taking the control back on, it's gonna sound really weird, but taking the control back on the way people kind of react to me, instead of trying my best not to take up space, actually taking as much space as I want to, and in that way being able to see the reactions of people in a positive light and not in a negative light, not seeing them as looking at me saying, "Oh my God, she's doing too much," or "She's too this, too that, not enough this, not enough that," but perceiving it in a way that they feel actually like I'm a person, I'm a confident person, and I'm just walking into the room and they can feel my energy, and that is what I find very, very sexy in myself.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know
That
if that was
confident
clear.
energy. Yeah, definitely. I love that, to really own up to how you want to take space unapologetically and not assume that people think that you're being too much because of
Exactly.
your earlier conditionings, that you are open, that your energy is welcome, actually, to that possibility, you know? I love that. I think that's really nice. Such a powerful stance that you had
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's still growing, it's still evolving, and that's really exciting.
That's so exciting. Imagine. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I
How it
cannot
will
wait to
change.
see how it's gonna be next year, or even in the next few months. Oh my God.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
But what about you? I'm curious about your
Mm.
stance.
Yes, my experience was also different, growing up as a queer person. Um, Also, a queer person who's quite unapologetically queer, even when I was quite little.
Mhm.
So I then that also meant that I had to be confronted with the fact that many other kids, even if they were queer, even if they were, for example, bi or something, weren't as comfortable living that nature of themselves, back then, especially when I was a child years ago. Um, because of many reasons, of course, because of many valid reasons. So that meant for me that I wouldn't know if I wanted to flirt with someone if they would be open to it. If a guy was at
Mm-hmm.
least bi or queer in some way. And I think I grew up with a lot of anxiety around that, especially in my teenage years and early 20s. I still kept that. But over so many years, I lost so much of my inhibitions. I also stopped assuming that people are. Um, I stopped assuming anything about people's sexuality. Also because I grew into a much broader perspective on it, and people are also growing into a much broader perspective on it. I even had some people who much later came out to me as bi or even gay, that back
Mm.
then I was positive that they were straight somehow. And then we kind of actually confessed to each other that we missed out on a certain romance that we could live together, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah, so I stopped assuming anything about anyone more and more, and I've been engaging with others much more openly. Even on the street when I'm alone, I feel much more comfortable with locking eyes with someone with a smile when I feel that energy rising. When I vibe with someone, I show it. I don't care,
Yes.
It's if that vibe is there, I will go for it. Whereas I would have been much more reserved about it before. And I
Mm-hmm.
think my
Mm-hmm.
sexiness flows when I really allow myself to feel the joy of possibilities of connection with others. To leave
Ooh.
that door open. The joy of like there are so many things that are possible between us right now. So many possibilities and I'm open to it.
Oh,
Let's engage in it. And when I let that flow, that energy flow, I feel so sexy, and I feel that person is being really sexy as well when that energy is flowing. So it's such a brilliant connection. I think that's what I've been tapping into for a while now, really.
oh my God, Mayas, I love it. Oh, I
Yeah.
love this. That made me feel all the chills, all the like
Yeah.
warm, fuzzy feelings.
Oh yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah, I really enjoy it
Wow.
as well.
So openness and curiosity basically is what um, kind of provokes this feeling of sexiness, right? In a way.
Exactly. And also, like, none of our gestures is a promise. So, I'm not promising to you that I'm straight or that I'm gay or that we will engage in flirtation or sex or something. It's
Mm-hmm.
just this wonderful, open, curious energy that flows between us when we have that
Yes.
vibe. I love it.
Ooh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Relish in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, and also I loved the way that Michi spoke about their monthly burlesque cabaret show titled Compost Bin exclamation mark.
Mm-hmm.
It felt so right and so necessary, like a space that is so extremely needed in this world and in these times, a space of inclusivity, liberation, and sexiness. Explaining their project, Michi says, quote, I think as people living in a world with so much injustice, in a city where we spend so much of our energy working to afford to live, many of us compartmentalize to be able to hold the pain and contradictions, to be able to
Mm-hmm.
keep going. As queer people, as people of color, as activists, and as organizers, we face the injustice and work day after day holding the pain, anger, and stress of these realities. So,
Mm-hmm.
as artists, we have created Compost Bin as a space for our communities to both dream and create the world we wish to live in. While in Compost Bin, our minds are opened to ideas and visions of liberation, and our bodies feel what it is to live in a world where we are all loved, valued, and free. End quote.
Beautiful.
I just thought that was extremely powerful as a statement, and I'm so happy that they created that space, and I kind of wish I could see this show. I'm so
I
curious.
know.
I'm
Yes,
so
same.
extremely curious. I wish I could yeah, just go to one of their wonderful compost bin cabaret shows
Oh,
and see them live, see them in person, experience the energy they create on stage, all three of them, and yeah, see their beautiful faces, their gorgeous makeup, the way they move, the way they embody their sexiness. I'm just so curious about that. And when I read this statement, this description, this necessary space that they've created, it just makes me long for it even more. And I find it wonderful the way that they use their performance and their art in a way to truly make people feel safe, make people feel comfortable in themselves, confident in themselves, embody their whole fully sexy beasts inside of them.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, same. I hope one day we can see that show.
Yeah.
Really, they really made me enthusiastic about burlesque and
Me
many
too.
forms of it. It really fired up my interest. I never thought of it that way. How it can be utilized to find freedom on stage in our own bodies,
Uh-huh.
to create cracks that can show our bodies that we can experience freedom, we can embody it, and
Exactly.
yeah, how it has a structure that can offer a lot of liberation. I love that. It kind of reminds me of psychomotor therapy, when you're
Mm-hmm.
in that space, in a space with other people. It's like group therapy, and people act certain roles that have a significance in your life, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, reminds me of that a little bit, like how you create a situation or narrative that gives your body the muscle memory of liberation from
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Giving our bodies the muscle memory of liberation, I think, is so important.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, in the introduction Adrienne Murray Brown gave us of them, I loved how she said they are making politics sexy. And I believe we really do need sexier politics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and by that, I definitely don't mean Justin Trudeau or Macron and the kind of hype they created for their sexiness, quote unquote, you.
Quote unquote. Bleh.
I know. But a sexy politics defined within the framework of Audre Lorde, for example, how she theorized it, an erotic politics, dedicated to make this life a pleasurable experience for all living beings and for this earth. Unlike how it is now, where most politicians are dedicated to make life an excessively inequally privileged experience for a handful of people,
Oh,
this
yeah.
murderous politics, and how we should shift it to a sexier, more erotic politics.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I wish Adrienne Murray Brown could be president of the world.
Exactly. You know, we should have burlesque in our parliaments.
Oh, yeah. That'd be fun.
Literally, parliament discussions should be in the shape of burlesque.
Oh, shit. That would be so nice. And that I'm pretty sure that would untie those assholes.
Like, why the fuck not?
I
Why
mean,
does it have to be like they all have to wear a suit and they all have to be white and
yeah.
cis man and
Ugh.
ah okay.
Ugh.
You. Okay, whatever.
I mean, I would love to see those cis white men doing burlesque. Like,
Yes, please.
hello, can we get
Hmm.
that? Because I'm pretty sure it would be quite the spectacle.
Redemption.
Yes.
I love it.
And something else that I really appreciated in this conversation is the way that they talked about their belief in joy and the way they also intentionally bring joy into their work. Michi said, quote, "We also don't shy away from bringing anger and sadness and confusion, but I think the idea is that to be whole, free people, we need to be able to access and experience all of our emotions, to allow all of them to move through us and not be stuck or stagnant or forced into only one. So many of us are forcibly separated from a range of our emotional experiences because of systemic inequality, because of the ways our ancestors learned to experience the world and the way their ancestors learned. Sometimes it feels like so many fucked up realities are imposed upon us that there is so much pain and anger and sadness and injustice. So of course what feels urgent and relevant to express is that. But that is part of the robbery, stealing from us our ability to live joyously and with peace. So creating space where we're actually bringing that to ourselves and to the room is really important. End quote.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought it was a beautiful way to pretty much summarize their intention and their motivation, the passion that they put into their work. I just found it really wonderful, honestly, this whole conversation altogether. I think they are so fucking right to bring more joy into the world, not to distract from the pain, the anger, the sadness, and the injustice, but to fight back actually those things, and to really use those as use joy as weapons, as tools to actually bring the world together in a more joyful and liberated mindset.
Yeah, very true. I love it. I love this entire conversation so much. Really.
Me too.
It was so wonderful. The last little quote I want to share is from Una, actually. Quote, "The joy in the process is just as important as the joy at the end that we're striving for." End quote. So related to what you just shared, their approach to joy is brilliant. And they are very serious about it. They're very serious about joy.
Oh, hell yeah. I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Being serious about joy. That's such a nice way to put it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Are you ready to move on to the next chapter?
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. Which is actually the last chapter for this episode. And it is titled Working the Pole, a conversation with Suguey Hernandez. And working the pole, that is my aspiration in life, as you know.
I know.
But here we go.
That's what you should have done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still considering it, honestly.
Please, go for it, seriously.
So before we dive in, I will just issue a gentle trigger warning, as there will be mentions of fat shaming and body image issues. So if you'd like to skip this part, feel free to do so and just join us for our next episode. Or if you would like to stay, please listen with caution. This conversation between Adrienne Marie Brown and organizer/pole dancing queen Suguey Hernandez filled my heart with a warm and fuzzy kind of joy.
Yeah.
I love the way Suguey talked about her love for pole dancing and her journey through it. She explains that before she started practicing pole dancing, she struggled to love her body, her shape, her weight, due to the fact that her mother was sadly constantly fat-shaming her and engraved the very toxic belief that she would, quote, be much more beautiful if she just lost some weight, end quote. Yeah. Which I think is an extremely harmful thing to say to a child, or to anybody for that matter. So I feel for Suguey and the way that those messages were engraved in her, unfortunately, by her mother. Suguey also talks about how she used food as a coping mechanism to cope emotionally, to cope from stress, particularly sugar, and how she, quote, became codependent on that nurturing feeling, end quote. However, after she started her pole dancing journey, Suguey rediscovered her body and actually learned to love and trust herself through pole dancing. She put it really beautifully by saying, quote, "I also realized that I was going to need to love my body so hard, harder than I could imagine, so that I could trust it enough to hold myself up in the air," end quote. And of course, pole dancing allowed her to fully access the sexy beast in her, the sexy beast that loves to be sensual, to booty shake, twerk, dance. And I loved that. I absolutely loved it. And of course, I am a huge fan of pole dancing altogether, and strippers in general, exotic dancers.
Same, me too.
So I really appreciated this conversation. But Mayis, I'm curious, did this conversation make you want to pole dance? And what did you take from this lovely pole dancing honor?
I must say it didn't make me want to do pole dance because I tried it. You were there, and I sucked, and it
No, you
hurt,
did
and
not.
but I love pole dancing. I mean, I love watching people do good pole dancing. I think it's just so beautiful, and I love it for Suguey how it really allowed her to experience her wholeness and claim it. Because in the introduction, Adrienne Murray Brown says, quote, I have been continually impressed by her commitment to sharing the sexy embodiment journey in spaces that her community and family will see, claiming that wholeness, end quote. And Suguey did it knowingly, actually, as she says, quote, I even found myself being like, I will purposefully post this video of me being my most sensual self so that my tias and cousins and friends will see how many fucks I give. End
Yes.
quote. And I love that so much. I love that so much.
That's something that you would do too.
Oh, I do it. When I post on Instagram something that is very faggy, I'm like, yeah, fuck all of my fuck all of my relatives.
Faggoty
I don't care. When I'm sharing my faggest self, I do it proudly, and I don't care what my relatives or
As
whatever.
you fucking should.
Oh yeah. And my father always likes them, so who cares?
And I mean, I have shared quite the amount of videos of you twerking to like Vivaldi's fucking Four Seasons on my Instagram stories, and it's the best. Oh my god, that booty shake.
Thank you. I always reshare them, and I really don't care.
Yeah,
I love
you
that.
shouldn't care. They're wonderful. They're little gems in this world.
Absolutely. I bet my relatives love watching them. Thank me later.
Thank me later. Oh my god.
But the biggest take I think from this essay for me has been this fierce way of claiming our wholeness, even when it's constantly discouraged everywhere, all around us. And to be able to really say, the fact that I grew up in your frame of morality doesn't mean that I have to abide by that forever. I won't let that fear of your judgment shut me down. I won't let that fear of losing your love or respect or care or closeness to shut me down. I am willing to change the contract between us, no matter how painful it can be, so that I can feel whole in this relationship. You know, I will do everything for that. Because otherwise it's not worth being in this contract with you, being in this social contract, this relationship, this family contract with you, if I can't be whole in it.
Exactly. I think it is such precious and valuable advice, honestly, because why should we censor ourselves for the sake of a relationship, for the sake of blood, of family, friends? Who cares? If you have to censor yourself for somebody, then clearly something's not right, and either you have to start a conversation with this person around it in order for yourself to feel liberated, or you can just do it no matter what.
Yes.
Just be yourself and don't give a fuck. There's too many fucks to be given in this world, and this shouldn't be one of them.
You know, this was also how I decided to come out to my mother at one point, because I thought I noticed that the most unhealthy thing between us in our relationship was the fact that I wasn't able to be my whole self in it.
Yeah.
And that was just really intoxicating our relationship, to the point that I really didn't want to pick up her calls and didn't want to be in communication with her because I wasn't my whole self in it. So at one point I had to tell her everything. I had to just come out, and that was a great decision. That was me ripping our previous social or family contract and being like, we need a new one. This one doesn't work anymore. Yeah, here are my new terms, you know?
Yes.
Sign under it, or we'll see. Yeah.
No, but that's really nice, because I think we tend to think, and we've talked about this in a previous episode already, but often we tend to believe that because someone is family, we should, no matter what, stay in this relationship on their own terms, even if those terms censor us or oppress us, which is actually not true at all. We can either work a way to meet halfway and actually evolve and grow together, or we can just say fuck off.
Oh yeah,
It's our lives. We don't have to live our lives under anybody else's terms but our own.
absolutely true. And wholeness feels so good. It's
Mm-hmm.
so worth it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yes. Yes, yes, yes,
The
yes, yes.
pursuit of wholeness is so worth it. It's really worth the pain of losing certain relationships
Mm-hmm.
if you are to achieve your wholeness after that.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
my experience, this is how it has been, I must say.
Would you like to share anything else about this wonderful pole dancing queen journey?
I just love it.
I love it too, and I think the only thing that I'm gonna share about this is that I miss pole dancing. I really do.
Oh, you have to go back to it. You really have to.
Yeah, I took like not many classes by the way, but maybe 5 or 6 pole dancing classes in
Mm-hmm.
Amsterdam back in the days when I lived there last year.
Yeah.
I discovered it through ClassPass, which is amazing because you just pay 30 euros a month and then you can just have like 4 classes a month and it's amazing. Anyway,
Did you secretly get a sponsorship and didn't tell me
I mean, not yet, but I'm not against
in
it.
partnership with LastPass?
This episode is sponsored by ClassPass.
Oh, stop it. You do it too convincingly. Oh my god.
I mean, she's just waiting for her contract, you know,
Yes. Why don't we get
and her
any? Indeed?
coin.
Hmm.
I do miss ClassPass and the twerking lessons that were on them.
Oh yeah. You know, you were really, you had a lot of potential in pole dance as far
Oh,
as I could
thank you.
see. I think you really should continue. I think you were really doing so good.
I would love to. I looked for similar classes where we live, but I couldn't find anything. I think, yeah, they only have a studio in Amsterdam, and there's no pole dancing studio as far as I know here. So I'm torn because traveling to Amsterdam by train from here is just way too expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I just miss it. It was honestly so freeing and it was such a good workout. It was so difficult. I was
Oh
always so
yeah.
sweaty by the end of it. I was covered in bruises on my thighs because you have to really like, yeah, you have to fucking fuck the pole basically with your
Exactly.
thighs in order to go up and down. And it was so painful. But it was
Hmm.
so, yeah, I don't know why. It just gave me this energy. I just felt so good. And even though, you know, I looked the opposite of sexy doing it because I was just like out of breath, sweaty, struggling like an upside
Yeah.
down turtle constantly, but it just felt good.
I know. I think there's this stage in pole dancing that you get to, and then after that, you are able to still look really sexy while
Yeah.
doing it.
I mean, they even gave like pole dancing classes on heels, like while wearing heels. And I was like, oh, hell no,
I
not
know.
yet. I
Yeah.
can't. Not at this
Hmm.
point. But they also had twerking classes, which I was very interested in.
Okay. Well, interested in being a workshop assistant or a teacher, or
For our listeners who do not know this about me yet, one of my favorite things to do is twerk round the world.
Lucy is a fierce twerker. She is the fiercest twerker ever. The way her ass can vibrate
Oh, yeah.
would put a fucking bumblebee to shame. It can vibrate so fast that everything around us just is floating.
Oh my
And
god.
I also especially love Lucy's floor twerking. She
Oh,
just starts twerking on the floor and she moves through the room back and forth. She just travels and I'm just watching her travels.
it's my favorite thing to do. I love twerking on the floor. It's my move. What can I say? It's my
I
move.
know. Oh, I miss
So,
watching you twerk.
thank you. I miss twerking with you, honestly.
Yeah.
We would spend entire evenings just twerking together, even if
Oh
we were
yeah.
the only the only ones doing
For
it during a
hours.
party.
Imagine how annoying we were.
Oh, I bet we were so annoying, but I don't care. It was fun.
I don't care. I love it.
Oh my god. Well, I think this is a wonderful point on which to end this conversation, actually.
Yeah, really. Really on point.
Yeah, our twerking skills and our twerking longings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Soon, our asses will be reunited in vibration, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, please.
Hopefully.
Let's vibe together.
In the meantime, we have reached the end of our lovely journey once again. And it was a lot of fun. And I think this episode was more lighthearted than some of the previous episodes we recorded, which is nice. It's also really important, I think, to have some breathers in between certain topics that can be quite heavy or quite intellectually stimulating. Not that these chapters were not intellectually stimulating. They were anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but once again, thank you so much, Mayis, my juicy co-host, for joining me today.
Thank
it was
you.
A pleasure.
I loved it. Same
Good.
for me. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Yes, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our listeners for hanging out with us yet again and giving us some of your precious time. We truly appreciate it. And we hope to see you next week for our next episode coming out next Sunday. And in the meantime, we wish you lots of joy and, of course, lots of pleasure.
Yes, we do. Love you. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
As always, our music is by the very talented Patrick Walinga, and our graphic design is by the amazing Yuri Sato. You can find us on Instagram, as always, at Soft Edges Podcast, so join us there if you feel like it. Thank you for joining us today. We love and appreciate you more than you can think. All right, until next time, bye-bye.